You didn't ask to be born. You didn't sign a contract, didn't agree to any terms. Or at least, no one remembers doing so. You simply arrived. And when you did, you had no idea where you were, who you were, or what you were supposed to do. You couldn't move properly, couldn't feed yourself. You felt hunger, cold, pain, and all you could do was cry. That's it. The very first act of existence is a desperate cry for help. You need someone for everything. To dress you, clean you, carry you. And the first lottery of life is this. Who's going to take care of you? Will you get love? Will you be held? Will someone be there to protect you when the world feels too big? Or will there be only silence, neglect, trauma? A lot of people start life already in debt, born in the wrong place, with the wrong people, at the wrong time. Schopenhauer said that to live is to carry a blind will, a drive to exist that we don't control. Life is a will pushing forward, even without meaning. And that will comes before any kind of awareness. That's why everything feels so absurd. You're thrown into a world already in motion, with rules you don't know, and you're expected to survive from the start. And the worst part? That feeling of vulnerability never really goes away. We grow up, learn to walk, talk, make decisions. But deep down, that same sense of being out of control, of needing someone, of not really understanding what's going on, it never leaves. It just changes shape. You grow up thinking adults have everything figured out, that someone's in charge, that there's a plan. But then you become an adult and realize everyone's lost. Everyone's just improvising, copying what they saw others do, pretending to be in control so they don't fall apart. People wake up early, go to work, answer emails, pay bills. They talk like they know things, act like they're on the right path. But inside, many are full of fear, doubt, and confusion. But no one talks about it. Admitting you don't know what you're doing feels like weakness. So we learn to pretend too. Carl Jung said most people don't really live their own lives. They live through masks, not through identity. They follow ready-made models, social standards, ideals they never questioned. And when the emptiness shows up, and it does, they don't know what to do with it, because they never learned how to look inward. What's crazy is that pretending has become the rule. You're expected to seem strong, to know what you want, to have formed opinions, to have an answer for everything. But what if you don't? What if you're just trying not to drown? No one asks that. Everyone just follows the script, and expects you to follow too. And then, when you start to notice all this, you laugh. Not from joy, but that bitter kind of laugh, like someone who's realized the whole world is a badly rehearsed play. Life is a stage where no one memorized the script, but everyone has to act anyway. But even knowing no one has the answers, the world keeps demanding that you do. You're told to choose a career, a path, a correct way to live. Like that's something easy. You spend years memorizing formulas, historical dates, grammar rules. You learn to do math, to pass tests, to deliver results. But no one teaches you how to cope with losing someone. No one prepares you for loneliness, for mental exhaustion, for the sudden urge to give up. You enter life like someone walking into a game already in progress, with rules that change constantly, and no clear explanation of what scores points and what counts for nothing. You learn what you're told, obey, get good grades, but deep down, you always feel behind, always incomplete. And when things get tough, when your chest tightens, when fear rises, you realize no one ever taught you how to take care of yourself. It's strange to think that in a world so full of information, the most basic things about existing are still taboo. No one talks about how to survive bad days, how to deal with emptiness, how to keep going even when nothing makes sense. These are the subjects that matter most, and life expects you to figure them out alone. In the end, that's why everything starts to feel so absurd. Because we pretend we're learning how to live, but really, we're just trying not to lose ourselves completely. And while you're trying to learn all this on your own, you still have to look stable to everyone else, as if the world is constantly watching you, expecting you to get it right, to smile, to look good, to say the right thing. Life becomes even more ridiculous when you realize how much you care about what other people think, even people you've never met. You trip on the street and instead of just getting up and moving on, You spend the rest of the day wondering if anyone saw, if they laughed, if they filmed it, if it ended up on TikTok. You leave the house, and before you even breathe, you're already worried about your hair, your clothes, how you walk, the face you're making. All because, somehow, other people's opinions feel heavier than they should. And what's crazier is that most people are so worried about their own image, they barely notice anyone else's mistakes. But the fear of judgment clings to us like a second skin. It stays there, quiet, sabotaging. It wears you down slowly. Because in the end, you don't want to be perfect. You just don't want to look like a fool. You just want to go unnoticed, without giving anyone a reason to laugh, to comment, to judge. But living like that, tiptoeing all the time, is exhausting. And when you realize you're shaping your entire existence based on how others see you, life feels even more absurd. And in the middle of all this, when you finally start getting close to someone, life throws another punch. You love, you give yourself, you form a bond, and one day, that person leaves. Sometimes because they want to, sometimes because they have to, sometimes because they die. And it doesn't matter how much you gave, how deeply you felt, how well you cared. The emptiness hits just the same. You look at the things they left behind, the old messages, the sound of their laugh still echoing in your mind. And you can't understand how all of it can just disappear. How someone who was part of your days, your world, is now just a memory. And then another kind of doubt begins. Will we meet again somewhere? Is there really a spiritual life? Or does it all just end here? You want to believe, but you're not sure. You want to have faith, but the silence of the world is heavy. And that uncertainty hurts just as much as the loss. And the worst part is when your dog, a being that never judged you, never betrayed you, who loved you purely, sincerely, and without expecting anything in return, leaves too. And you're left with the feeling that he was better than most people, better than you. And if he's gone, why are you still here? Yes, I went through that recently. An unbearable pain. I'll always remember my best friend Tony. It's these losses, the big ones and the small ones, that show how absurd this life can be. Because it doesn't matter how much you love, how much you care, how good your intentions are. Nothing guarantees it'll last. Nothing guarantees it'll come back. And even after loss, after breaking down, after nearly sinking, you try to pull yourself back together. You make plans, set goals, get organized. You buy a new planner, change your routine, promise yourself that this time it's going to work. Because we need to believe we have control over something, that it's possible to take the reins of our own life. But then reality hits you again. You do everything right, or at least try to. You work hard. You love the right way. And then, out of nowhere, everything changes. Bad news, an accident, a painful word, a loss no one saw coming. Suddenly, everything that felt solid starts slipping through your fingers. That's when life shows you that the control you thought you had was just a comfortable illusion. Almost nothing really depends on you. People change, feelings change, the world spins without warning. And no matter how prepared you are, some things just happen, whether you like it or not. And it hurts. It hurts because you feel small, powerless, almost ridiculous for having believed you could predict the next steps. But in recognizing that lack of control, something begins to shift. You start to let go a little, to live more slowly, to understand that maybe the secret isn't controlling everything. It's knowing how to breathe when everything slips from your hands. And even when everything is out of control, you're still here, standing, or at least trying to. Because the world doesn't stop for those who are hurting. The bills keep coming, your job still demands things, people still expect answers, smiles, good moods. And little by little, you learn to wear an invisible armor. Life becomes even more absurd when you realize you have to look strong, while everything inside you is screaming for help. Some days, you get out of bed on autopilot, just so no one notices something's wrong. You smile, you talk, you do what you're supposed to. But inside, your body is tired, your mind is full, your heart is drowning in a silence no one can see. And so you start piling things up, storing pain where it doesn't belong, swallowing what you wanted to scream. Because showing weakness feels dangerous, feels ugly, feels like failure. So you fake it. And sometimes, you fake it so well that you forget what it was like not to have to pretend. But the body keeps the score. Eventually, your mind freezes, your chest tightens. And everything you've been hiding starts to leak out. In an anxiety attack, in sudden tears, in a desperate urge to disappear, even if just for a few days. And no one notices. Because the armor is still there. Intact on the outside, but corroded on the inside. And even after all that, the exhaustion, the hidden pain, the feeling of being completely drained, you keep going. Because that's what's expected. That you keep moving forward. That you keep trying, producing, dreaming. But no one ever asks if you even know where you're going. Life is ridiculous because even without a map, without a compass, without any guarantee, we keep going. One step after the other, on a path that sometimes doesn't even feel like a path. Just an endless loop. Wake up, work, eat, sleep. And repeat, repeat, repeat. Until you forget why you're doing any of it in the first place. Some days it feels like you're just pushing time forward. Living out of inertia. Doing what has to be done, without feeling much of anything. Just because that's what people do. Because stopping feels too dangerous. Because stopping would force you to look into the void. But that void still shows up. In the middle of your routine, in the silence of a shower, at the end of the day when the house is dark and there's nothing left to do. That's when the question no one answers creeps in. What's all this for? And even without an answer, you get up again the next morning. Because deep down, something in you still wants to keep going, even if you don't know why. And when you try to make sense of all this, when you look around and see people coming and going like everything's fine, you're hit with that strange, hard-to-explain feeling. Why do I feel everything so deeply, while others seem to feel nothing at all? Life is absurd, because you feel too much in a world that feels too little. You walk into a room and instantly pick up on the tension. A single misplaced word can hurt you for days. You think about things no one ever talks about. You miss things no one even noticed were gone. And that isolates you. Not because you want to be alone, but because it feels like no one speaks your language. People say you're too sensitive, like it's a flaw. Like noticing more, suffering in silence, having your heart tighten over little things, is weakness. But as Albert Camus said, the world offers no meaning, and yet you feel everything like it's your burden to carry alone. That's the absurdity, wanting to deeply connect with a world that lives on the surface. You see people living on autopilot, yelling on social media, faking happiness, running toward nowhere. And you feel even more out of place, because everything inside you craves silence, truth, depth. But the world offers noise, haste, and superficiality. So you learn to hide, learn to disguise. You build layers. You smile on the outside, while inside, you're constantly trying not to spill over. But the truth is, feeling too much in a world that barely feels is like living with your skin turned inside out. Everything touches you. Everything leaves a mark. And even so, it's that sensitive heart that keeps you alive. Because feeling too much also means loving deeply. Seeing beauty where no one else does. Having compassion in a time when everything is competition. The absurd exists, but so do you. And that in itself is an act of resistance. And despite everything, the weight of feeling, the persistent emptiness, the losses, the silences, the exhaustion of being, you're still here. And maybe that's the most improbable part of the whole story. Because honestly, no one could blame you if you had given up. But you didn't. You're still going. Sometimes slowly, sometimes impulsively, sometimes with no faith in anything at all. But still, you go on. Yes, life is ridiculous. And yet, you keep going. You keep waking up, getting dressed, eating something, trying to hold your mind together. And even on the days when everything feels pointless, you still breathe. You still feel. You still hope that somewhere along the way, something will make sense. You may not have great victories. You might not even know what victory really means. But you're here. And that says more about you than any resume, any achievement, any applause. Because continuing when you have a reason is easy. What's hard is continuing when you don't. That's not weakness. That's strength. A quiet, invisible strength that doesn't show up on social media, that no one really notices. But it's what builds your days. It's the bare minimum resistance you show each time you get out of bed, even when your whole body begs you to stay. It's the small act of care you give yourself when everything feels like it's falling apart. And that, no matter how small it seems, is huge. Maybe that's what living really means. Continuing, even without knowing the ending. Moving forward, even when everything feels kind of meaningless. Because there's a part of you, sometimes small, sometimes almost gone, that still believes something good might happen. And it's in the middle of that crooked path that those small, unexpected moments happen. You're distracted, tired, not expecting anything, and suddenly you see a beautiful light pouring through the window, or hear an old song that gives you chills, or smell something that reminds you of someone. Simple things, but for some reason they make you pause. Breathe. Feel. Life is absurd, but there are moments that are worth something. Sometimes it's just a hug from someone you love, a conversation that eases the weight, a hot coffee on a cold day, an animal curled up in your lap, a silly laugh that escapes for no reason, and for a few seconds, all the things that felt too heavy to carry feel lighter. You don't fully understand why. There's no logical explanation, but you feel it, and that's enough. It's as if, even without meaning, life still offers you small glimpses of beauty, as if it's saying, I know it's hard, but look at this, just for now. These moments don't fix everything. They won't change the world, but they hold you in place just long enough to keep going. They're small anchors in the middle of chaos, and sometimes it's those little things that save us the most. In the end, it's not really about big achievements or ultimate answers or constant happiness. It's about noticing these cracks of peace within the mess and holding on to them with care. Because on the days when everything feels heavy again, those are the moments you'll remember. And when all is said and done, maybe that's all there is. Life is ridiculous, yes. It's full of flaws, losses, shocks, silences, and questions no one will ever answer. You can try to understand, to search for meaning in books, in philosophies, in religions. Or you can simply accept that not everything will make sense. And that's okay. Maybe living well doesn't mean fixing everything, or becoming someone completely put together. Maybe it just means learning to live in spite of it all. In spite of the pain, in spite of the fear, in spite of the emptiness that creeps in from time to time. It's about getting back up even when you don't know exactly why. It's choosing to care for yourself a little each day. It's letting go of all the pressure. It's accepting that you don't have to be strong all the time. Some things will hurt forever. Some people you'll never forget. Some days will be awful from start to finish. But there is also beauty in the details, strength in small gestures, and meaning in the connections you make, even if they're brief. Camus said that the absurdity of life isn't an invitation to despair, but a call to freedom. If nothing has a ready-made meaning, then you're free to create your own. And that's power. A quiet power. A subtle one, but deeply human. You don't have to conquer life. You just have to live it your way. In your own time, at your own pace, with your own truth. Even if sometimes you think it's all a little ridiculous. And if you've made it this far, it means that, somehow, something inside you has still chosen to keep going. And that, in itself, is immense.